politics, ignore the bogus and fake polls intended to put a leash on the rising popularity of the New Patriotic Party. That's according to the flag bearer hopeful of the NPP, Kyerematen. These are the words from the party stalwart who is on a nationwide campaign tour. Let's cross over now to Maxwell Agbagba, who is my colleague monitoring that tour of the NPP presidential hopeful. Maxwell, what can you report? Where are you now and what's happening?
In the Bono region, I'm here at Sunyani, where Alan Kyerematen has been meeting with some officials, of the party, some regional and constituency executives of the NPP. As you can see, one of the meetings just ended, and we have quite a number of people who were in that meeting, coming down here. But his first port of call today was at the Sunyani Traditional Council, where he paid a courtesy call on the Sunyani Traditional Council. There, something interesting happened. The Akwemuhene of the Sunyani Traditional Council publicly endorsed Alan Kyerematen. He said, in his own words, he said, he's the man to make history. He's the primus inter pares. That is the first among equals. And that was done publicly. Many people who were there at the Sunyani Traditional Council were a bit surprised because they are not really used to achieve publicly, endorsing, a political, hopeful candidate or an aspirant, in an election. Right after that visit to the Sunyani Traditional Council, he came here to meet some of the party executives here, and like I mentioned earlier, that interaction has ended. We have quite a number of them also coming out. But earlier today, like you mentioned, the campaign has been reacting to some polls and surveys out there, projecting some other candidates as the winners, as the possible winners of the NPP presidential primaries. They specifically responded to one that projected the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as the winner of the NPP presidential primaries. That's going to happen, we are told, sometime later this year. They say that that poll is fake. They say that that poll is bogus because they have been doing their own investigation, and the investigation that they did actually led them to leads where they say that some young men, women, they said they didn't find any contact actually to the organization that did the polls. They said these are people who are hidden in their office somewhere in Leeds, where they basically did the research there without any evidence. But I have with me here the communications, the spokesperson for the Alan Kyerematen campaign, Yaobo Abena, somewhere here with me to respond to that poll that I was talking about. You're welcome to join us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Earlier we were talking about that poll that you described as fake. You still stand by?
Of course I do. It's obviously fake. The metrics are poor, and now we've been. In fact, the very first day we heard about that poll was Monday. Okay. We were on our way to Kumasi when they released it in an attempt to preempt the movement in Kumasi, because the Kumasi movement was momentous, it was heavy, and they thought they could use the poll to undermine the movement. When they released it, I said there and then that it should be dumped in a rubbish bin. Not even in the bin, it will contaminate the bin, on the lid of the bin, so it doesn't contaminate the rubbish. It was pure rubbish. Now, it's being found out that it is fake. If you are going to do something that's fake, to influence the Ghanaian political process, then do something that is reasonably, credibly fake. Don't do something this, it's taking us for granted. What has been done takes us for granted. That you are assuming you can manipulate the Ghanaian voter through means other than orthodox, through means other than fairly political, through means that are deceptive, through means that don't show who you are, actually shows that you are mendacious, you are a liar. We want people of integrity. We don't want liars in this process. Whoever was responsible for that poll has besmirched the name, character, and personality of whoever he did it on behalf of, whoever he thought he was favoring and that person should disown this poll.
Okay, so that polls actually projected that the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, was going to win the election. So are you saying he should dissociate himself from this?
If he doesn't, he will suffer a major credibility deficit, and this is free advice. He will suffer a major credibility deficit, because how can you associate with such a dastardly act aimed at deceiving the Ghanaian voter public, and not just the Ghanaian voter public? This is a republic in whose affairs the entire international community is interested. Where we are now, headed into IMF program, we have, and then into a situation where we are supposed to be breaking the 8. You have a stacked election. First of all, what message are we going to give the people of Ghana in order to demonstrate that we are capable of continuing to break the 8, given the condition we are in? So we have a situation where you have a message and then you have the messenger. Where your message is difficult, your messenger must be credible. Then it means that the qualities of the message must transmit to the messenger. So the people can then say that, well, even if we are in a situation that is not too good, this messenger can give us the goods. This messenger has a big vision. This messenger is credible. This messenger has integrity. This messenger is a doer, is competent. This messenger can deliver on the hope that we have. Because Ghana is in a very peculiar situation. The reason Ghana wants to break the 8 is not because we want to break the 8. It is because of the chop and stop and start nature of public policy. If NPP doesn't continue, the solid foundation of free SHS and all the infrastructure, TVET and all the infrastructure, 1D, 1F, where it's reached, at 200, nearly 300 factories. We are aiming for 1,000 factories, 2,000 factories. What will happen next is that we will lose all that, because anybody else comes in, everything we've done will stop. And that is something we can't afford. That is why we want to break the 8, to continue and consolidate these good things. The economic situation is a blip. It's a very difficult blip, but it's still a blip in the context of the larger situation where we've done all these things up to now. And so the next messenger must be one that has no blemish. The next messenger must be a person of integrity. The next messenger must be capable of demonstrating competence to handle the issues at stake. So you have, for the Allen campaign, an economist, trained economist, a diplomat, a lawyer, governance expert, and a doer, entrepreneurship and business, management consulting, all aimed at creating an environment that will build on the foundation this government has achieved in order to leapfrog our difficulties and create jobs for the people. This is what we want.
Okay. Let's flip the script. If this organization had projected in your favor, would you still say that it's a fake poll? Would you still say that it's a bogus?
My attitude to polls has always been consistent, very consistent. First, Ghana's politics, democratic politics, is still evolving. We haven't consolidated. And there was a time when you couldn't dare ask somebody how they would vote, because they were afraid. They were afraid to identify one or the other. It came with repercussions. Either came with benefits or repercussions. And then we are getting to the stage where people are beginning to open up and express preferences openly. And you can examine these preferences and plan. You can data plan. You can evidence plan your campaigning and your policies and all that. And that is where polling is handy. So we should all be happy that polling is growing in our system. Okay? But the thing about polling is that it must be objective and credible. Otherwise, it's not useful to anybody. If you are giving me evidence on which to plan my future, I must be sure that that evidence has a solid foundation. That evidence is good. That when I use that evidence to plan, I'll be planning effectively. As soon as you begin to have funny polls like this, so then to conclude on that thought, my attitude has always been that once a poll comes in, we take it indoors, examine it, and then work with the parts that we need refining as far as our own game is concerned. It's advice. Okay. You can choose to use it or not. But in this particular poll, I am vehemently, violently stressing that it's fake because it is fake. And it is meant to do something that is dishonorable. It was meant to bring down the Kyerematen campaign before it even started.
Okay.
And that is why it is dishonorable.
Okay.
It shouldn't have been done.
Okay. Finally, before you go, we know there's a National Executive Committee meeting, Functional Executive also in there, and other committees deciding when the presidential and parliamentary primaries should take place. Any expectations?
I think it's time. I think it's time National Council brought out a schedule. We are dancing around when we don't have time. I think it's time. Otherwise, they will lose control. Otherwise, they will lose moral authority to manage this process. It is a process that must happen. So what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? We all believe in the rules. We all believe that it must be a managed process. That's why we all subscribe, and we have been all careful. We've been careful for a long time. I was part of the executive which developed the initial rules and regulations, if you recall, which were published before the Congress of 21. Because even then, people had started and were going on. So, in my view, we've exhausted the space for restraint. We've exhausted the space for restraint. People have had enough. This is the time for people to start and move. So let council bring out the timetable. Let council manage the rules. Let us all know where we are, because it is inevitable that we are going to compete. So as far as I'm concerned, the timetable must come out today, not later than today. And beyond today, the council will not have any moral authority to stop anybody from campaigning.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
Okay, great. So you heard from the spokesperson of the Kyerematen campaign, Yao somewhat there. Like I mentioned earlier, these are regional executives, constituency executives, polling station executives. All of them came in here. There was a long meeting for about 4 hours. It just ended. They are leaving. We told that later in the day, the NPP Flagbearership for Kyerematen will be meeting the clergy, and then he will leave this region and then move to another region. Yesterday we were in the Bono East region. Today we came to the Bono region. He'll be moving to another region later this evening. So that's what's happening here in the Bono region. Over to you in the studio, Blessed.
Maxwell Agugwa reporting on the Kyerematen campaign.